Yeah, that's right, we are back. Today I'm pretty excited because I'm here in Hemel Hempstead at XC Skatepark. It's a little bit parky out, so let's get inside and take a look around. So I'm inside and I have to say it's looking pretty good. The XC facility is one big purpose-built building. The tour side is devoted to the climbing centre, and I had a quick look in there and those climbing walls are pretty impressive. I reckon if you're into climbing, then it will serve you well. The other side is devoted to the skate park, and I'm just having a quick tour around here. If I flick this camera around, I can have a look at some of the things on offer. There's a couple of bowls here at XC, and the one that caught my attention is this pool style bowl. So as you can see, it's got pool coping, it's got a set of steps, it's also got a def box down there in the deep end. I reckon the deep end's a good 9 to 10 foot, and it's got that pool style transition which is pretty steep at the top and then going whippy at the bottom. And the shallow end, it's got to be around about 5.5 foot. And there's a big set of blue tiles which should make a nice bit of sound, and a rather intimidating looking bit of coping. So this is a little bit thicker than what I'm used to. If I get down in this bowl, I just stick the board up here. So my wheels are 55mm, and that coping has got to be a nice solid 70mm, I reckon. Quite pitted, pretty rough, with some good sized chunks out of the joins. So I reckon even getting a modest grind on that is going to be a major achievement, probably more like a slappy on a curb than some sort of double trucker. The pool steps are going to be a fun challenge to get over, and I think this waterfall, it won't come out in the video, but that is looking pretty steep. Oh my goodness. Okay, so coming out of the pool bowl, there is also a flow bowl. Now this is the one that featured in the UK Champs, and they've still got a few of the extensions and a few of the stickers set up from that. So again, the deep end's pretty deep. There's an aggressive waterfall and then some extensions and a square bowl at the end which could double up as a mini ramp should you wish. Coming round, there is a terrifying looking vert wall, and that leads into the street section stroke jump section. So coming down here, there's a couple of jump ramps, there's a resi ramp. There's also all of your street stuff, a really long rail that looks fun, and some quarter pipes to turn round on. The next feature is this mini ramp, and this mini ramp is right up my street. Dead simple. It's just really wide, not too tall, and there are extensions as well. So I reckon the 50-50 grind is going to be enormous fun on that one. The only other thing on this skate park that I haven't covered is there is another micro ramp in the corner which I spotted. It seems to be a place for people to pop their coats and sandwiches at the moment.
So the other feature is this little micro ramp.
Now this has not got a lot of flat bottom at all. Not a million miles away from the mini ramp that I built in the back garden, but even less flat bottom if that's possible. I might have a little go on that, a little trip down memory lane. Looks pretty fun, pretty mellow. Anyway, enough of my yakking, let's get cracking. crikey, that's a lot of fun and pretty challenging. The thing that threw me is the cadence and the speed at which the tricks have to happen. I'm used to a standard mini ramp where you've got a bit of time to think about it. But I reckon this mini ramp's a really good training tool because those tricks have to happen a lot quicker, speeds up the mind. I found it helpful to try and plan a bit of a run, or at least the first few tricks, just so I could get into the rhythm of it. And then I managed to get a couple of runs where I linked a few tricks together. Next up, I'm going to go on that super wide mini ramp. Okay, as I expected, that mini ramp is ace. I quickly fell into a battle of trying to get the longest 50-50 grind that I possibly could, and that was a whole lot of fun trying to stretch it out. I find that when I'm going for a long 50-50 grind to start with, I pump a bit hard, end up too high up on the ramp, and that leads to the two toe side wheels coming up against the coping, then I have to rejig that back truck and it doesn't really look that great. But after a while I summoned the courage to stay inside the ramp, commit to the cross lock, and by the end I got a couple of decent cross lock 50-50 grinds. Okay, next up, the main event. I'm going to go for a raz round this pool bowl. My goals here are going to be a front side and back side double trucker in the deep end. Slightly harder probably is going to be some sort of grind in the shallow end, and I'm going to try and get over those steps front side and back side, and to finish up probably tinker with some sort of cope install like an axle stall. We'll have to see how we go. Well, that's it for my trip to XC Skatepark. Whew, that was a lot of fun. There is plenty to do here and I only scratched the surface. That little tiny mini ramp was very reminiscent of my backyard mini ramp, and I really took a trip down memory lane trying to get a few runs together. The cadence was super quick and I just had to get used to doing my tricks super quick, and I enjoyed the challenge. The next thing was the rather wide mini ramp, and I quickly gravitated towards doing the longest 50-50 grind that I could, but I'd imagine if I had more time I could string together a decent run. The main event was the pool bowl, and that was, it's quite slick in there. I gave the pool a bit of a sweep out just to get rid of any surface dust. The concrete is sealed and I'm riding 99A wheels. I found they gripped absolutely fine, and if you're used to riding slippery wood, you shouldn't have any problem coming here and riding in that sealed pool bowl. Managed to get over the steps front and back side, and that was all about getting a decent line and the right amount of speed into it, and also committing and not jumping off. Any sort of grind on that coping is a major achievement. It's about 70mm thick, it's properly gnarled up, so they felt more like a slappy grind than a double truck grind, and I found I had to slightly change my technique and make sure I was really in the back seat, loads of pressure on my back foot and not too much pressure on the front foot at all. I also had a good old battle with the rock to fakie and the tail stall. Now I know in the video that it won't come across how tricky that was, and I certainly made a right meal of it. But it demanded a different type of rock fakie to get over that coping, both forwards and backwards. I really needed to bend my knees, pump up onto it and spend as little time as possible with the board on the coping. Just sort of a very quick up and back. And the steepness on the way back in, I kept on over-committing, landing on my elbow, and that was pretty emotional. The tail stall was the same sort of deal. I haven't really done any tail stalls on steep, tricky transitions with fat coping like that. And to start with, I kept on coming up short because I couldn't get the right amount of speed out of my fakie carve, which was also pretty tricky. But eventually managed to get a bit of a rock to fakie, that fakie carve, and enough speed to get the tail stall. Getting that axle stall was harder than it looked. I managed to get there in the end, and overall I really enjoyed my trip to XC in Hemel Hempstead. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe. I make new videos every week. You can also follow me on Instagram @JohnBishopSkate. As ever, my name's been John Bishop, and I'm a middle-aged guy learning how to skate.